Humans have been fascinated with time for centuries. From Einstein's theory of relativity to atomic clocks that will remain accurate for the next 100 million years, we are obsessed with understanding time. In fiction, investigations of time are no less abundant, found everywhere in the form of what-if stories made possible through time travel. Whether that means fix-it journeys to the past, predicting the future, or Groundhog Day loops, time travel is a universal staple for story lovers. The Clock That Went Backward, a short story written by Edward Page Mitchell and originally published in a newspaper called The Sun in 1881, is a brief yet highly contemplative early take on time travel. Time travel's popularization in fiction is widely accredited to The Time Machine, a novella by Herbert G. Wells that was published in 1895, several years after Mitchell's short story. Without the established groundwork for what time travel should be like, Mitchell spent copious dialogue on establishing his idea of time travel, and his story provides insight on the construction of the familiar and current-day time travel's signature features. As a whole, The Clock That Went Backward is a story about the fantastical idea that cause and effect is a two-way relationship. Though there is an emphasis on detailing Mitchell's idea of time travel, the story's ending also offers readers a warning of how reckless people become when they assume that they know what will happen in the future. The story revolves around a nameless narrator and his cousin Harry. The two are college-age boys visiting their Aunt Gertrude's house in Maine. Gertrude possesses a Dutch clock that was made 300 years ago in 1573, but its hands are stuck and unable to be moved by their best efforts. One night, they witness their aunt conversing with the clock and see its hands whirling backward, after which their aunt suddenly dies. The Dutch clock then comes into their possession, but it is once again immobile, and the cousins move on to college at Leiden University in the Netherlands, giving up on the mystery. Aunt Gertrude's clock, of course, is the mechanic for time travel in Mitchell's story, but it is unknown to the cousins until they meet Professor Van Stop, a metaphysics professor who bears an uncanny resemblance to their aunt. The narrator brings up the Dutch clock to Van Stop and argues that it is totally illogical as a timekeeping device because it rarely works and only goes backward, but Van Stop interrupts with his disagreement. Why should not a clock go backward? Why should not time itself turn and retrace its course? For 19th century readers before The Time Machine, Van Stop's question is as baffling to them as it is to the narrator, which is why the remainder of the conversation is a clever method for Mitchell to respond to any potential confusions and disagreements the readers may have with his idea of time travel. As Van Stop continues posing questions and derailing the conventional understanding of time, a tension and sense of foreboding builds. Why is Van Stop so passionately convinced that time can reverse and the present can influence the past? When Van Stop suddenly moves to wind the clock backward, it is finally revealed that the narrator Henry and Van Stop will be traveling back in time. Thrown into the explosive action of the real historical Battle of Mukerheide in 1574's Leiden, Netherlands, the narrator's group quickly realizes they possess the knowledge of the battle events and outcome because they came from 300 years into the future. The Battle of Mukerheide took place during the Dutch Revolt when Spanish forces had broken through Leiden's walls, but were repelled by the city's insanely fast counterattack. With foresight about the location of the wall's breach, the narrator is able to guide the city's burgomaster immediately after it happens. However, to his surprise, a group of people are already present, including Harry and someone eerily similar to Van Stop in appearance, who the burgomaster subsequently identifies as the maker of Gertrude's Dutch clock. Though technically impossible, the clockmaker's opportune placement at the battle scene suggests that he and Professor Van Stop are the same person. The battle quickly wraps up thanks to the preparedness of Leiden, but it is not without consequences for the time travelers. In the short hours that the narrator and Harry lived in 1574's Leiden, they experienced much more than the brief objective description of the battle from their books. They see the starvation and the desperation of Leiden's people and hear the uplifting speech of the burgomaster. They interact with the many variables of a historical event in their past without first evaluating the dangers. Harry is saved by chance by the burgomaster's daughter, instantly falls in love, and decides to remain in the past instead of returning to the present. During the battle, the narrator's arm is injured by a stray projectile. Mitchell shows that while the narrator and his cousin knew what would happen in 1574, they weren't invincible or completely prepared because of it. Where they should have exercised caution, they do save Leiden, but are also entangled by several other variables that they weren't aware of. The narrator's losses are especially severe. He finds his arm in bandages and will now have to live without ever seeing Harry again because the clock was destroyed. Returning to the office where the narrator and Van Stop's first conversation took place, Van Stop finishes the story with another question. Does the descendant owe everything to the ancestor, and the ancestor nothing to the descendant? It is almost as if this ominous question is the second part of his thoughts from the first conversation, and it leaves the narrator and the readers to continue thinking about how our actions reflect influences of and on other times. From start to finish, Van Stop is the catalyst for all time travel related events, yet he remains a mysterious character. Compared to the narrator and Harry, Van Stop's absence of changes post-time travel makes it seem as though he was the only person with complete foresight. Though a brief read that hardly stands out from the hundreds of time travel stories that exist today, it is interesting to remember what a mind-blowing idea Mitchell's story must have been 200 years ago. From the start, readers today will understand Aunt Gertrude's Dutch clock is a time machine, but most people in 1881 reading the story's original publication probably did not. Time travel stories have always been used to explore alternate presents, pasts, and futures, and even in their earliest form here, they have had the second purpose of warning humans against being reckless with powers and knowledge not entirely in their control. The Clock That Went Backward offers an incredibly detailed and valuable early picture of time travel. The narrator's losses from his trip to the past and Van Stop's question leaves a haunting thought of how our assumptions and reckless actions from perceiving ourselves as omniscient is still relevant today, even without the fictional context of sci-fi and impossible time travel.